Good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. My name is Faraz Patel. I would like to thank you, the viewer, for staying with us. I'd also like to thank my colleague Luqman Shadrack for taking you through that first part of the show. Now, the Israeli military has launched a new wave of air raids and artillery fire in southern Gaza, forcing Palestinians to flee the overcrowded Rafah in advance of a feared ground invasion that world leaders have started to condemn. The United Nations Humanitarian Agency, also known as OCHA, said that people already displaced several times in the 4-month conflict were heading to Deir al-Bala in the Nusayrat refugee camp in the central Gaza Strip. Joining us now to discuss this, I'd like to welcome Faten Elwan, who is a journalist based in Ramallah. Faten, assalamu alaikum. Shukran so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for the timing.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Faten, when you see the images of Rafah, when you see the overcrowding that is happening, it just makes you think, doesn't it, that even now more than any time else, there needs to be that ceasefire, something which just seems to be evaporating in thin air for it to be called.
Doesn't seem like Netanyahu cares about what the international community, not even his biggest ally in the time of history of Israel, the United States. Tonight, there was a phone call that lasted for 40 minutes between Netanyahu and Biden. And again, Netanyahu is saying no ceasefire unless it's according to our rule, and no ceasefire if it's going to go toward declaring a Palestinian state, though Israel did sign the Oslo agreement that clearly identify a two-state solution. So what's going on the ground is nothing but craziness and selfishness of Netanyahu that wants one thing only, and it doesn't care what the price that's going to be paid, is him staying in this government and stay as long as he can away from jail. So what's going on in Nasser Hospital is nothing but a repetition of Al Ma'madani Hospital. First time he did it, it was a chaos. Everyone was condemning, but those hospitals are being repeated again and again and again. Going into a hospital just to get the rope of dead bodies of Israeli prisoners, killing anyone in the way, it's just a shame for humanity and international law.
Faten, I want to come back here to South Africa, of course, because I know residents of Ramallah like yourself have been following the International Court of Justice ruling. And it clearly stated that Israel needs to cease away from violent acts. Now, the South African government has again written to the ICJ saying that what is happening in Rafah is going against the ICJ ruling. Looking at that, one would feel that this is the perfect moment for the ICJ to make an even tougher stance. What is the word coming out of Ramallah with regards to South Africa's new case that they have launched with the ICJ? And what are you hoping for, that there can be something even more stronger than the case that the delivery that was given around 2 to 3 weeks back?
South Africa did the magical thing that no one dared to do throughout the history. For the first time ever in the history of Israel, we're seeing a country, a government that slams Israel in the face and take them to international law. And though the ruling was clear that there is a plausible genocide being conducted in Rafah, but the international world, the leaders of the world, those who want Israel to stay there because there is a coalition of interest between them, does not respect anything. And though the effort of South Africa was magical, but no one is applying their view for the time being, at least. But I'm telling you, what South Africa did, and regardless of all the losses in Gaza and in Rafah, and now displacing people one more time, that will lead into a massacre. If he wants to say, or Israel is going to say, we're going to do surgical operation, and surgical operation mean picking a target to hit. But when you talk about a place where it's highly densely with people, any target can look or lead into a carpet bombing. If you look into the street of Rafah, you will only see heads as long as your eye can go. You just see heads. You see human beings. And still, this is not enough. Like even the hypocrite world of the United States that is forming non-stop allegation, even when he insulted Netanyahu on a phone call, or he said that they need to stop, or this genocide need to end, or respect the human being and the losses, we still see the government of the United States sending them money to fund this war. So where are we going? We are going to a place where it's a shame for human being in general to look at this happening, and the leaders of what they call themselves a free world. What's the solution? Only God knows, because we're totally dealing with a maniac. Netanyahu officially is someone who doesn't care, respect, or ally to any international decision, even if Israel is going to be labeled for one day as a country that committed genocide. And if you go to every video, every frame, every scene coming from Gaza, it's not nothing but a repetition of a Holocaust conducted by Israel against the Palestinian people.
Faten, the Nakba 1948, there was a statement released earlier by the ulama here in South Africa stating that we are more closer to a repeat of 1948 than we've ever been. When we see what's happening at Rafah, when we see the lines and lines that people are waiting because there is nowhere for them to go in Gaza because it has been flattened. Are we about to see a repeat? I know it is something that is uncomfortable for you as a Palestinian to talk about, and myself also as a Muslim looking what is happening right now. But we are close to that, aren't we? Because it just seems the world continues to not look at it as a serious situation. And if that's going to be the attitude of the world, then surely we are moving more to another Nakba where we have 2 to 3 million displaced people going basically nowhere right now.
We're not going toward a Nakba. We are living in a place worse than a Nakba. A Nakba was into a period of time in which Palestinians were displaced, and the same displaced people are being displaced again. So those are the people of a Nakba. Those are a continuous version of a Nakba. So we're not going toward the Nakba. We are living in the worst Nakba ever. And not just because of the displaced people, it's also because those people lived this Nakba non-stop. Those people were displaced 3 or 4 or 5 times. They're being played as a domino. Israel would decide to bomb Khan Yunis, send them to Rafah. They want to bomb Rafah, send them to Al-Mawasi. They want to send to finish Al-Mawasi. They're moving them around, and the problem is there is no accountability. No one is holding Israel accountable. With the number of massacres, it's the first massacre, a first genocide that you see it. You see it with your own eye. When they decided to go against the UN, they didn't have any evidence. It's just one Israeli accusation of 12 UN members took a part of the October the 7th, and then they cut off the funding. They want to declare and close, and their non-stop attack and against the UNRWA. And the UNRWA is an idea that was created during a Nakba and lived with those people throughout their lives. And now they just want to end the idea of the UNRWA, because ending the idea of the UNRWA means ending the idea of the refugee and automatically end the idea of the right of return. It's not innocent. And still, the whole free world decided to take measurement in less than half a day to boycott the UNRWA. But when you ask President Biden or Blinken or any spokesman in the White House about the allegation of killing Hind, we don't have enough information, and investigation is being held. Seriously? She was killed on the phone. You have the footage. We have the testimony, and we saw the car, and there was a target, target that the ambulance was targeted, and you still need more investigation and evidence. But when 12 UN workers were involved, according to Israeli allegation, a blink of an eye, you managed to get a decision to be part of starvation of more than 2.4 million Palestinians in Gaza. Isn't it a shame that the free world, the people that lead the democratic campaign, do this against innocent Palestinian people and the name allegation Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. Like, honestly, where is the humanity? And what pissed me off more than the silence and the not movement of the politician is how we as humans failed. Because the Israeli plan is clear. If you think it's only about Gaza or the West Bank, then maybe you should go to the map that Netanyahu himself presented in the UN. It's going up all the way. This is their dream. This is the big kingdom of Israel. It's not about Palestine. It's about Palestine, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, all the way even to Egypt and maybe to South Africa. That's the dream. This is the map. And we're nothing but a start. Palestinians, what's happening in Gaza? And don't think that the West Bank is innocent as well. We have a movement of settlers who are called once by the Israeli government itself as a terrorist organization leading the army and the movement on the ground in the West Bank. So it's a break of any aspect or any equation of humanitarian law in the West Bank. There is no law that was not broken by the Israeli army here.
Faten, as a journalist based in, even if you are in Ramallah, your life is at risk at most times because, as you mentioned, you could either be attacked by a settler or even somebody from the Israeli occupation forces. I want to bring up a stat that was brought up. 75% of journalists killed last year happened in Gaza. That is as a state of affairs as has ever been, isn't it, Faten?
You know what they use their accusation for killing those journalists? Again, they are Hamas. Everyone is Hamas. Everyone that breathes is Hamas. Everyone. Everyone. So as a journalist, I'm telling you, it's unprecedented what's going on. The targeting, and if, like, I don't want to say that we are journalists, we're better than people, but no, targeting the journalist is targeting the truth. Blinding the journalist is blinding the truth. The only mistake that Israel didn't put into consideration, that now we have a social media world, a phone, a powerful phone, that you don't need a journalist. You can kill as much journalists as you want. There is 2.4 million phones, eyes. And they, yes, became also the deliverable of the truth. And tell me how you're going to hide or blind this. Targeting journalists, you have 2.4 journalists on the ground feeding the world non-stop images of a life genocide conducting against Palestinians with no record in return in any conflict in the world. This is the highest number of journalists being killed throughout all conflict in the world throughout the history. But the more you kill journalists, the more eyes will be built on the ground. Now, every move, every breath, every act that you take on the ground, there will always be a camera hunting you and put your crimes online and show it to the world. We just need the world to stop being blind and start acting against this hypocrite government.
Faten, shukran so much for joining us here on Hilaal TV. Please do take care of yourself. Inshallah, we hope to speak to you again. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
That's Faten Elwan, a journalist based in Ramallah, Palestine. Do stay tuned after the break. I'll have your latest in finance, markets, and sports.